right, in today's tutorial, we're going to expand on the skills we learned in Lesson 1 and explore new tools like grouping, creating holes, and using the duplicate feature. By the end of this lesson, you'll be designing your very own neighborhood. If you're a teacher, feel free to pause the video at different points to let your students practice. I'll also provide a few tips along the way to make it easier to guide your class. Okay, let's go ahead and first start by creating another project. We'll click on Create and then 3D Design. And for this one, we're going to go ahead and name Neighborhood. If you're a teacher showing this lesson, you probably just want to name it Lesson 2 until you actually get to where you instruct the students on what the project's going to be. Then you can have them rename it to Neighborhood. Otherwise, I've found that they end up starting to create their neighborhood as you're trying to teach them the new skills. Okay, first we're going to review what we learned in the last lesson. So in the last lesson, we learned that these white boxes can help you change the length and the width at the same time. The black boxes, depending on which one you pick, will help you change the width, or these will help you change the length only. The cone will raise the object and lower it. The curved arrows can help you rotate the object, and you can either rotate it at 22.5 degrees, or you can use the outer circle and rotate it 1 degree at a time. This is the view cube to get different views of your project. If you end up zooming in and doing some kind of additions or some kind of work on the project and you get lost, you can click on the home view. Takes you back to that original view. And then lastly, we discussed that whenever you bring a shape out and there is a shape that already exists on the work plane, the next shape is automatically put into cruise mode, which means you can lay it flush on any face that you see. We also covered that if you bring out a shape and you misplace it, you can always turn a shape into cruise mode by clicking on this upper right icon, the magnet, and then clicking on that white dot and just dragging it where you want it to go. So the first skill we're going to learn today is the grouping skill. So let's go ahead and delete this, and then we will bring out a cube, and then we could bring out a roof, and we'll place it right on top. And then there's two ways you can group objects. You can first start with by just clicking down, dragging your mouse, and creating this dotted line rectangle around whatever objects you want to group together. Release it, and then you can click on the group icon up here. It will change the color, but if you want it to go back to its original colors, you just click here on the color and click multicolor. If you're a teacher showing the students this, I usually show them this first method and then explain that sometimes though, when you have many objects on the work plane, you don't really want to use that method, because then you'll end up grouping whatever's going to fall inside of this rectangle, and there might be objects that you don't necessarily want to group together. So the other method is to, well, first let's ungroup this one. And then when you click on one object, you're going to hold the shift button down and then click on the other. And then you'll see here that it has two shapes. That's will always tell you how many shapes you're focusing on. And then you can group them like this. And again, if you want to change them back to their original colors, you just click multicolor. And so I also normally show the students that at this point, you won't be able to change the color. If you click on it and you try to make it a color, it's going to make the whole thing that color. So just make sure that you have the color that you want before you group objects. And you can also group objects that are not touching. Let me go ahead and bring out another object, put a box around them, and group them together, just so you can see that. And at this point, it would be good to pause the video and just go ahead and start bringing out objects and practice grouping them. I would suggest practice grouping them by just drawing that box around them, as well as also changing them back to their original colors. And then also practicing the method of clicking on one object and then holding the shift button down and clicking on another to group them. So hopefully you got some practice bringing objects out and grouping them together. Next, I'm going to show you how you can also use that skill and make a hole in certain objects or just alter the way they look. We're going to go ahead and take this object and make it just a little bit bigger. Then I'm going to bring out a round roof and make sure that I extend it all the way through this object. I will, any shape that you bring out, you can make a hole. So that's what I'm going to do with this round roof. Then I'm going to just do the same method of drawing a box around it and grouping them together. And then you'll notice that there is now a hole going through this shape here. I was also saying that you can use it if you wanted to maybe just alter the way a shape looks. I'm going to go ahead and just put the sphere going into the structure. I'm going to draw a box around it and group them. And then, oh, actually, I forgot that I have to make this sphere a hole. Then I can group them. And you can see right there that it took some of that away. Okay, now would also be a good time to just pause and practice bringing out shapes and making holes in them, or practice using this hole method to alter the way the shape looks. Okay, well, that's it for today as far as the new skills that I was going to show or that I have written up in the lesson. So at this point, you would just go ahead and try making your own neighborhood. The requirements I do give for those teachers watching, I usually have the kids want to set up at least 6 houses, hoping that they can at least make 3 different designs. Um, for and when you're given this lesson, what I've learned is that I also don't necessarily show them how to make a whole. I just kind of show them how to group objects and then how to duplicate them. At that point, I kind of want them to start practicing the skills more. So I just let the second and third graders start creating their neighborhood with that. If it's fourth and fifth, I will actually also just stop at showing them how to group objects. I don't necessarily show them how to make that whole. But I do show them that when they're making their neighborhood, they can go up here and you have different categories that you could choose from, or you can use the search. And so if they really want to give their house some details, then they could look up some windows. And this would be really good to do when they want to add these different features to their houses, because then it really has them work on the skills that we've been teaching in the past few lessons or the past couple lessons. They have to resize it. Sometimes they'll have to rotate it depending on where they want to place this window. And definitely after they get it all the right size, um, they will end up having to just duplicate it. So they'll practice doing that as well. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and make a neighborhood for you. I will first show you what an example of maybe some second and third graders might make. And then I'll continue adding more to show you what some of the fourth or fifth graders might be making. Okay, this would be pretty much something that a second or third grader would be able to make. When they do it, they usually get pretty unique with the shapes that they use to make their houses. But they end up getting the houses and the grass and maybe the street at least. But sometimes you'll see them add all sorts of things. But it would also be good that if you're a teacher and you're going to do this lesson, that maybe you make your own neighborhood just to give them an example of what they're going for. Next, I'm going to add some details to these houses like windows and doors and maybe some different features, which is something your fourth or fifth graders might be able to do. Okay, that's it for this video. Next time we will cover basically the last two skills I think that are necessary for kids to learn to be ready to pretty much create whatever they want. And it's going to be the align tool and the mirror tool.